Welcome to the Equations and Inequalities review tutorial. We're going to go through each problem on the review and make sure you understand what's going to be on the test. This is a good call that you decided to watch the video before the test on Thursday. If you hear anything in the background, it is thundering at my house right now while storming. So you may occasionally hear some thundering in the background. So let's get started. We are starting with graphing inequalities. Remember, the biggest thing to remember about graphing inequalities is that an open circle means that it is not equal to. So that could be the less than or the greater than sign. And also that the closed circle is equal to, because we're saying you can use this number, it's part of the line. That's a great way to think of it, as that if you're closing it, it's part of the line that represents the variable. So this could also be the less than or equal to or the greater than or equal to. So this first one we read left to right, x is less than or equal to 23. So this is going to be a closed circle and we're going to be going to smaller numbers to be less than. Next we have x is greater than 3 1/3. And if you notice there's no 1/3. So you're going to have to break the line up. So now this would be 3. You would have 3, 3 1/3, 3 2/3, and then 4, because that would be 3 3/3. And it's going to be an open circle, and then it says it's greater than. So we are going to go to the right. Next, we have 5 2/3. So once again, I'm going to break this 5 up over here. Going to have an open circle again, and we're going to be going to the left because it was x is less than 5 2/3. Lastly, we have x is not equal to 16. So we're going to have an open circle, and it can be any number to the left or to the right. In this section, that is still continuing with the graphs of inequalities on a number line. This time they want you to write the inequality. So you can choose whatever variable you want. As you know, I like to use x. So when I'm looking at this one, I'm going to say x, and then I'm looking what direction is my line going. It's going to the less than sign. So I'm going to draw a less than sign. Then I also check, do I have an open circle or closed? It's open, so it's just going to be less than, and it's going to be the number that it's on. So x is less than 54. Okay, the next problem, I have x, and then I notice it's going to the right, so it's got to be greater, and then I notice it also has a closed circle, so it's equal to 1. Now, the next section of your review is solving equations. So remember, we're always using inverses when solving to get the variable alone. So as I told you, the first thing I like you to do is to draw that line to represent your two sides, that you're keeping your sides balanced. And since this is adding, that means I need to subtract to get rid of the 27 39/100. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other to keep it balanced. So we've done that. These cancel out or make 0, so I am left with t on this side. And then if you subtract this, you're going to have to borrow, make that a 4. This becomes 12. So we have 3, 1, borrow again. You have 5 and 3. So I can say that 35 13/100 equals t. And remember, we can check by plugging this actually in for t. So I can go backwards and double check that if I add this, it equals what it says it will. So we get 12, carrier 1, 5, 12, carrier 1, 6. Okay, so our answer works. So remember, we can check our answers. Moving on to the next equation. Once again, still don't forget to do that. So this is multiplication. So we are dividing by 7/10 and dividing by 7/10. 7/10 divided by 7/10 makes a 1, so we have 1x over here. And then we don't actually divide fractions. I mean, you can, but we are going to change this into a multiplication problem by rewriting it. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus a 3, so I get 23 fifths times 10 7th. Remember, if we change the division to multiplication, we have to change our fraction. So this will give me 230, 23 times 10, and then 5 times 7 is 35. But we cannot leave our answer that way. We need to simplify it. So you will go in there, it will go in there 6 times. And with 20/35 left over, so if you're not sure, you can think of 6 times 35. If you multiply, that gives you 210, and you have 20 left over. And this could also continue to be simplified if it asks you to simplify in lowest forms to 6 4/7. Okay, moving on to the next problem. The first thing I know we all think about is, oh my goodness, it's a fraction. But we also know that all fractions are just division problems. So to do the inverse of dividing, we are going to multiply by 6 3/10 on both sides. And notice I am not using the x because, oh, I did here. Let's make that a dot. These will cancel out because you kind of have to think of it as 1, which will give me q left over on this side. And then I'm going to multiply this. 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1, 21, 22, and carry the 2, and 6 is 8, placeholder. 5 times 6 is 30, carry 3, 6 times 7 is 42, plus that 3 is 45, carry the 4, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So now if we add this, we get 5, 2, 13, carry 1, gives me 7, 1, and I have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal. So my final answer is 17 325 thousandths equals Q. And the only reason I'm not checking every answer is due to time, because this video would be very long if I checked every answer. But you are more than welcome to check all of your answers on your test and should check your answers. Okay, moving on to the next problem. First thing I'm going to tell you is just ignore the very front thing right here. I cut it off from another problem and there was a number in front of the Z. So just ignore it. It's not there. Same thing with this behind on the 3/10. Okay, so first thing I told my students is if you have a fraction and you're adding or subtracting, go ahead and find common denominators. I've seen students do it in different ways. It's your choice, but I suggest changing this to a 10. So 5 times 2 makes 10. So 2 times 2 is 4. So now we've changed that. So draw your line to separate your sides. Now this is subtracting, so that means we're going to add 4 4/10 to both sides. So I'm going to add it to this side as well. So negative 4 4/10 plus 4/10 makes a 0, so they cancel out. And this will leave me with Z equals, and then 4/10 plus 3/10 is 7/10, and 8 plus 4 is 12. So that would be your final answer since 7/10 cannot be simplified. Okay, on this next problem, we have to remember that when there is a number and a variable right beside each other, that means multiplication. So we are actually going to be dividing by 4 7/500 on both sides. Okay, and so 4 7/500 divided by 4 7/500 makes a 1. So I have 1x, and then I'm actually going to come to the bottom here and rewrite this as a long division problem with 24 7/10 in the numerator. So we're going to move this decimal twice. So if I move that one, we have to move this one. It's kind of the same rule with equations. If you do one thing to one side, you do it to the other. It's the same type of scenario. Okay, so I have 475 into 2,470 now. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that decimal up so I don't forget. So I noticed that it's 24. So I could make a good guess that 5 times 4 is going to be 20, so it'd probably be pretty close. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35, plus that 2 is 37. 5 times 4 is 20 plus the 3, which got us really close So we're gonna subtract here, we get 5. This will actually give us 16. So we got to 95. So we're gonna add another 0, bring it down, and then this one will be exactly. So this means that 5 2/10 times 4 75/100 would give me 24 7/10. Okay, so once again, it looks like it's a fraction, but it's really a division problem. So this says divided by 11, so we're actually going to multiply by 11 on both sides. Remember, draw that line so you make sure you're doing them both. These are going to cancel out, so you'll be left with b equals. So now we actually have to multiply here, so we get 3, 6, placeholder 3, 6. And if you add all that, and then we have one number, so that would give me 69 3/10 is what b will equal. Okay, the back side shouldn't take as long as the front. I'm sorry this is a long video because of all the working out. So when you're solving inequalities, you solve them exactly the same as you solve equations. You just bring down the sign. So for example, this is 8x is greater than 28. So I know the 8 and the x is multiplying, so I need to divide by 8 on both sides. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, 8 doesn't go into 28 equally, so we just come over to the side and divide it. 8 will go into 28 3 times. Add that decimal. And then 8 goes into 45. So x has to be greater than 3.5. This is what we are looking for. Don't say, oh, well, x can be 4. No, I want to see the inequality rewritten. And then you may be asked to graph it, so just real quick, remember if you have to graph it, just put that 3.5 in the middle and put numbers on both sides. It is an open circle and it's going to be greater. Okay, next we have x minus 5 2/10 is less than or equal to 3 6/10. So if it's subtracting, we need to add to both sides. Negative 5 2/10 plus 5 2/10 makes 0. So they cancel out. Notice I am bringing down my sign. I did not change it to an equal sign. I saw several people in the concept check changing the inequality to an equal sign. You will lose points because they are not equal. So this becomes 8 and 8. So we have 8 and 8/10. So once again, draw your number line. Put that 8 and 8/10 in the middle. You can count it by tenths if you'd like. 8 and 9/10, 8 and 7/10. We know this one is going to be a closed circle because if this sign reads that it's equal to, and then it says that it's less than. So we're going to go to the left. Oh, now it looks like these tricky fractions again, but we know it's not a fraction, it's a division problem. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. These will cancel out and leave you with x is less than, not greater than, 20. And so then we're going to graph this one. So we have 20 in the middle, 21, 19, open circle because it's just less than, and it's going to go to the left. Okay, for this section of your test, you are of your review, you are writing an equation or an inequality. So be careful because it could be one or the other. This one says the minimum age for voting. So right there it tells me it's not an equal sign because that's an inequality word that we have in our notes, is 18 years of older. Let V represent a voter's age. So if I said V was the voter's age, the voter I know has to be greater than 18, but it says a minimum of 18. So they could also be 18, so that is the equal to sign. Okay, this next one says the perimeter of a square is at least, there's that word at least, that means it's an inequality again, is 50 centimeters. Let S represent the measurement of the sides of the square. So we have to remember that sides of a square are all equal. So you have to think there are 4 sides, so think about your square. S, 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 S. S plus S plus S plus S gives me 4s, and it says at least 50, so that's going to be the greater than or equal to sign again with a 50. And then we're actually going to solve, so divide by 4 on both sides. We'll get s is greater than or equal to, so if we're going to come over here, 4 will go in here once, give me 1, 10 will go in there twice with 8, so it gives me 12.5 centimeters. Okay, oh, and I should have put years old up here because we need to label our word problems. Okay, Charlie gets 95 cents discount at the ice cream shop he works at. If he pays $3.16 for an ice cream, find P, the original price. Okay, so if I know that $3.16 is my total, I'm going to say that's going to be my equals. So I'm going to do the original price minus 95 cents equals the $3.16. Remember, we are writing the equation, not just solving. So we're going to add 95 cents to both sides. These will cancel out. You will be left with 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry that 1. 2 plus 9 is 11. Bring that decimal down. And then you have 4. So P will be $4.11, the original price. Next, Nikki is trying to lose weight as her New Year's resolution. She wants to only eat a maximum of 2,000 calories. Okay, so I know that that would be the less than or equal to sign because a maximum. By dinner time, she had consumed 1,250 calories. Write an inequality to show the possible amount of calories C she can still eat for the day. So they want to do C plus the 1,250 is going to be less than or equal to the 2,000. So now, going to solve. We're going to subtract 1,250 from this side. Subtract 1,250 from this side. These make 0. So C is less than or equal to 750 calories. And I should put calories because we are doing a word problem. Yay, we made it to the last two problems. So these last problems, we're just trying to determine if a number that's given to us is a solution to an equation. So in this first one, they want to know if 18 is a solution to this equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug 18 in for x and see if it is. And when you multiply 18 times 2 and 5/10, you get 8 times 5, which is 40, 5 times 1, which is 5, plus that 4 is 9. Placeholder, 2 times 8 is 16, 2 times 1 is 2, plus that 1 is 3. So then we're going to add here. We have 1 decimal place. So I can see that this 45 equal to 40, that's not a true statement, so it's not a solution. Remember, we will be looking for work on your test. You have to prove to us why it's not a solution. Okay, so in this next one, we are going to plug 3 and 5/10 in for x in this equation. So if I add these two, I notice that I'm going to get 13 equals 12 and 75/100. And I know this is not true, so this is not a solution. So if it was a solution, then both sides would be equal to one another. So for example, if I said 4x equals 8, and I said, well, can x equal 2? You would plug that in and do 4 times 2 equals 8, and 8 equals 8, so this would be a solution. You made it to the end. So if you have any more questions or anything that you're still unclear about, come into tutorials. Your test is on Thursday this week, and we will get anything cleared up that there are any confusions.